I'd like to welcome everybody to Radio Arizona RV, and today's episode is number 4, and it is about leaf springs and how to maintain them and prevent problems. So most trailers, whether it's a boat trailer, a car trailer, or a travel trailer, fifth wheel trailer, cargo trailer, utility trailer, they have leaf springs on them. Some of them have torsion axles or suspension, so that's a different ball game, but we're talking about trailers with leaf springs. You know, throughout the years, I've seen a lot of people with leaf spring problems. They come into our store looking for leaf springs, shackle bolts, shackle straps, and they're broke down out on the highway, while they're traveling, and it presents a real problem. When a leaf spring breaks, quite often you're not just going to be able to go to a store and buy one. It might have to be ordered, and even ordering has at risk because you might get the wrong one, and then you're stuck even longer. Have to have your trailer towed, or the hazards it puts your family at broke down on the side of the road, whether it's day or night, and even other motorists. So preventative maintenance can be the key here. Not always. Sometimes they just break, and that's just the way it is. But there's some ways to deal with that. So first off, what you want to do is take a look at the leaf springs. You're going to have to crawl underneath your trailer and bring a rag, a flashlight. You might even want to hose them off the day before you crawl underneath. Just get all the dust or dirt and any loose stuff off, just so it's a little better visual. Now, you're not going to see everything, and typically a leaf spring's not just going to have a crack in it. It might have the telltale signs of a crack. See some heavier rust than normal, or some gray metal as it's rubbing together. But you want to look at the leaf springs themselves, and then also you want to look at the eyes, the end of the leaf spring. You want to look at the shackle straps. Those are the straps that go from the frame hanger to the leaf spring itself. And, sometimes they'll have elongated holes because they're just wearing out. And even the rubber bushings inside of the eye can be worn out. And that's harder to see, but if you're inclined or you feel you need to, you can always take one half of the shackle strap off, the side where the nuts are, and just pull it off, and you can look at it. And of course, you want to take the load off the axles if you can. But nonetheless, you could do that. But the visual inspection isn't always going to give you a whole lot of information. It's just preventative. You're just trying to get the obvious. But the elongated holes in the shackle straps are a sign. If the bushings are worn out, you're going to have the bolt and the eye rubbing together. There's no lubrication there. The plastic bushing actually is a lubricant. They do have better bushings made out of brass. They have the Never Fail bushing. So those are alternatives for down the road. If you have to do maintenance, that'd be the time to put them in. So inspect the leaf springs, inspect the bolts, the shackle straps, the hanger, even the equalizers. Those are what tandem axle and triple axles have. That's what connects the leaf springs together. And those things do break, and they might have a telltale sign as well. Unfortunately, most of these parts are all rusty by the time you go to do anything. The paint has come off, so it's really hard to see anything. But being vigilant can help. Like I said, you don't want to break down on the road, because a leaf spring doesn't just break while your RV or your trailer is sitting. It breaks while you're traveling. And sometimes trailers have the wrong axles and leaf springs on them. The trailer is too heavy for the suspension. And I'm not going to say it's an everyday occurrence, but it is fairly common, especially after you get your RV or your trailer and you put all your stuff in it. Your clothes, and you accessorize it and you add more weight to it. Sometimes that can be enough to push it past what the manufacturer recommends for the weight rating of the suspension. And if that's the case, that could affect your tires, could affect your wheels, it'll affect your wheel bearings, the axles, and of course the leaf springs. But a simple fix, it might not always be the best because you still have those other components to consider, but a simple fix sometimes, if your leaf springs are breaking, more often than they should, which on some trailers they never break, and on other trailers they seem to break fairly common. We get customers that it's like a regular part of maintenance, it's like an oil change on their car. They just replace their leaf spring because they're always breaking. They've even gone to oversized ones or heavier ones, and they still have problems. So there's issues there that without seeing it, it's hard to say what it could be. But going to a heavier leaf spring is okay. You don't want to go too heavy though. If you have a leaf spring and it's, the leaf spring and it's got 5 individual springs in the pack, you don't want to go to 8. You'd maybe go to 6. Look at the weight rating. If yours is rated at 6,500, you don't want to go to 10,000. You'd want to go to maybe 7,500, or take your trailer to a public scale and get it weighed and see what the actual weight of it is when it's loaded for travel, because that's when you're having the problems. So you could buy a new set of leaf springs, and you'd have to replace them all. You can't just do one wheel if if you're upgrading the size of it. Now, if just one leaf spring breaks and you're not changing the load of it, the load capacity, then you just put in that one leaf spring. And I highly recommend carrying spare parts. If you have a tandem axle trailer or a triple axle, you'd want to carry at least 2 extra leaf springs, extra shackle bolts, shackle straps, maybe an equalizer or 2. You know, you might have $100 or so wrapped up in this, depending on the leaf springs that you have. A little extra weight, but the weight, you know, just don't bring that extra case of beer or that extra 18 pounds of food that you can buy when you get to your destination. You know, just travel a little bit lighter if you're worried about the weight, but it's not going to make that big of a difference, you know. But have the spare parts, because if you break down on the road, it is so much easier to just pull them out of a compartment and just go to work and get it fixed and get back on the highway, rather than have to hunt down and find the parts. Now, if there's an RV store nearby, you might want to just go try. You could take a sample of each of your new parts. This is what I need. And that way you have your spare parts again. You know, if 2 leaf springs broke or 1 broke, you want to replace it, the spare part, if you used it. You don't want to just go back to the same old thing without the spare part. I think that's common sense. I think you understand. So, you know, visually inspect them. If you're having problems, address the problem. Go to a heavier leaf spring if you need to. Carry the spare parts and make sure that your trailer's properly loaded, not overloaded, and even the weight is balanced properly to, you know, maximize the life of the leaf springs and prevent premature failure. And these things happen, and sometimes parts just wear out, but we can do a little bit to help relieve some of the stress on the leaf springs and also the frustration in our lives with broken down trailers on the side of the road. So that's it for leaf springs. Of course, there's always much more to some of these components on a trailer or an RV. You know, we try to give you some good, solid direction to follow to help prevent problems. So if you have questions or anything that, you know, you are concerned about this, you can always give us a call at 800-789-5588. Again, I want to thank everybody for listening to Radio Arizona RV, episode number 4, Leaf Springs.